Daily game design time. Some kind of fun moments to recap. Um, Tuesdays I've been going to Other Realms. This was the game store where I started having like a weekly routine around going to a game store, learning new games. I think it was probably, I don't know, August, September 2021 when, actually, that doesn't seem right. It might have been the summer because it was when things were really starting to open back up. And I want to say, I could be wrong here, but I want to say Other Realms was the first that I was aware of, the first local game store that had, a public game night that they announced. And anyway, even from that time, there was always a demo listed on the website. And I think that's how I found it. I think that's how I got excited about going. I don't actually. I do remember. I think the first game we played there was Bayou Bash, maybe, or maybe there was one more. I can't. Yeah. Anyway, very early on, I remember playing Bayou Bash with Ulu, and and the guy that still hosts even today, or these days, Juice, or Christian. I don't know. He has a couple names he likes to go by, but Juice is the main one I call him. Anyway, Finspan was demoed last night, and I'd been looking forward to trying it. I probably wasn't gonna like just buy it and learn it myself, something like that, because I like Wingspan. I've only played Wormspan once. I do appreciate the move toward less randomness in the availability of food or of costs. So that's why I thought Wormspan was a nice experience. But I was very happy with the simpler, more quote streamlined variation on this concept, the engine building with the tableau building going on. I was really pleased with it. I had a very nice time, and the group was really fun to be with too. We had a 5-player game. In my view, the game felt a little long, but actually Jamie Stegmeyer is streaming right now as well, and I just asked him if they, because it's a 4-round game. I asked him just now if they had considered 3 rounds, and they never. I guess they didn't really consider the number of rounds as an issue, or it was just somehow the expectation that 4 was going to make sense. What they did spend a lot of time tuning was the number of turns everybody gets per round. So in Wingspan, I don't remember Wormspan. It probably is similar. But in Wingspan, the number of turns you get per round does change. In Finspan, they just left it the same. And that seems fine. So, yeah, I like that. One thought I had as far as what I thought was a nice tweak, a nice improvement on the concept. In Wingspan, and I want to say Wormspan too, but honestly, I think that Wingspan is kind of the cultural standard. In Wingspan, you're just running these different habitats. You're just resolving them, the cards that you play into that habitat, with the cube moving down a row. And there's that's not a problem. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is just a mechanical device that you're using cubes running down the rows of habitats to indicate, basically to keep track of where you are in the row, and then to keep track of how many turns you've taken. It's fine. It's actually I think a simple, pretty clean way of running the engine. What was, I think, a cute detail in Finspan, so if Wingspan is about birds, Finspan is about fish. um, they have divers. So the divers drop down through these depths of the sea, the ocean. And you're doing the same thing. You're essentially running your engine and you're keeping track of where you are and what you get to activate, but you're diving and the little meeples are divers, and even though it's still mechanically the same, thematically it makes sense. So in Wingspan, it's fine. You're just running the thing with the cube, but there's no reason that you can imagine thematically why you would be doing that. Similarly, it's not obvious. Oh, hey, Francisco, welcome. Glad to see you. Similarly, it's not obvious that that you would really be able to do this with a diver that you're, dropping to the bottom of the sea. But it's still, at least it's a move. It's a step toward meaning. That, like, oh, I understand more about how to take my turn because I understand what the ocean is and I understand what a diver does. So I think that's actually it's a big advancement in a game when the theme helps a player take their turn. That's a big deal. It's not just superficial. It's not what's that nice veneer, right? It's not thematic veneer. It is, this helps me know what to do. That's ideal, right? That would be the gold standard for the marriage of mechanism and theme. So anyway, I really had a nice time. The other thing that I thought, just like in Wingspan or even in the fiction of Wormspan, they did a great job with beautiful artwork. They name all the fish and they have their fun facts. So I think it was really great. I think for the most part, we went, as we played around the table and laid fish onto our player boards, we would, at least two or three of us would name the fish and then read the fun fact. And there are some crazy fish. These things, I was interacting yesterday with a friend on Instagram a little bit, and this was about bugs. Bugs are insane. Like super crazy things happen in the world of bugs. But fish, similarly, insane. Like, there are just some of the weirdest creations there. Things with crazy faces and jaws and other abilities. There was one fish, I can't remember who it is, but has antifreeze proteins in its body so that it can swim in sub-zero temperatures. Sub-zero? That's not right. Below freezing. There are no waters that are below 0 Fahrenheit. But that was cool. There, and many of them, like the images of them, are memorable. I can't remember all the names, but they did have the famous blobfish in the game. Anyway, just a nice experience. And then after, we played one more game. I think it was something Happy Mochi, I'm pretty sure. But we played one more game. Is that a real fish? I have no idea. Is that a real fish? Mortal Kombat fish? I can't imagine. But they are so strange, so many of them. Well, I should say I really did enjoy the engine building in the game. I had a lot of fun figuring out how the eggs turn into the young, and then I think all of us were still absorbing the rules as we played, and it took us a while to do that. And I think our scores would be different. Significantly different if we played again, but overall I thought it was a really clean version of the concept. Oh yeah. Francisco, you are I think you must be like a reference king. That's how I feel with all of your podcasting and yeah. About movies, I feel like your focus isn't it movies? Like older movies or something? Okay, after I went over toward Armchair, on Tuesdays, Other Realms ends at 8, Armchair closes at 10, so there's a nice chunk of time to go and see friends over there. And there was a group that that was sitting outside of Armchair, and they were just pulling out an Exit game, and I think it was Exit Catan. And I have never played an Exit game. I've designed 4 escape rooms myself for summer camp, and I think I'd played or tried an Unlock, and there were a couple of other card-based escape rooms that I'd had a look at, mostly replayable ones. I forgot that it was Exit. I forgot it was Exit that has you. It's the one that you're more likely of the different like versions of this type of thing. I think Exit, you're most likely to be like cutting things up, tearing things up, marking things, so it's really not replayable. But I have to say, I was so impressed with some of the ideas there, with the design, the concepts, the use of all the materials. I won't give anything away. I didn't get. I think I was there for maybe an hour, and we got a fair amount into it. I can't tell. I'm not sure if they finished or not. I don't know how much was left, but I really had a nice time, and just like surprise after surprise, and I thought there were a lot of clever puzzles. Some stuff that I knew I wouldn't get, and that's always frustrating in an escape room when you just run into a puzzle, and after you've gotten a hint or two, you know, like, that never would have made sense to me. But that's the nature of the thing. Like, our minds work differently, and that's why it's good to have different people go into an actual escape room. It's good to have a group of 4 or 8 or whatever, however many people can get in there. If everybody gets along, it's awesome to see how the teamwork works out. Anyway, I left early because I wanted to get to bed and get to streaming in the morning, so I hope they ended up having a nice time. The last thing I wanted to do here before I jump into today's project is I received a box from Mike Petty, and I'm excited because on BGDL I asked if anybody would be willing, generous, and to send us a game for our upcoming retreat. We have the retreat in early October, the first weekend of October. And it's always great to have giveaways and things that we can raffle off, because we don't make any money, and it's just helpful if we can incentivize people to give a little more, be a little more engaged, or if we have a little more of a reason to tip them to coming, that kind of thing. And I thought that offering games like this from small scale designers, self-publishers, I thought this would be a really, really cool thing to be able to offer, and also to spread the word about these sometimes like less visible publishers. So I'm gonna open this right now. I just got this yesterday. It was sitting in my tiny little mailbox. I'm excited because I believe this is a dexterity game, and I really enjoy dexterity games. In fact, I want to say I mentioned Ice Cool. I played that last Thursday. Had a lot of fun flicking penguins around, and I think here we're flicking discs, but I was surprised that it's such a small box. So I'm not sure you can see, but yeah. So I have 2 small boxes here. One is ozone. Let me pull both of them out. It might be the same. So Axcadia. Toss the dice, hit the target in ozone. This is a super fun team game. 2 players or teams, 15 to 30 minutes. A high-fivin' dexterity game. That's a fun little tagline. A high-fivin' dexterity game from Mike Petty Games. Anyway, super stoked that we have people out there that care about the little guys, the tiny retreats and events, where I know we're not going to get a ton of eyeballs on these. However, I know we have passionate people. I know we have very invested people. These are like the gamers that come out, and they'll play this. We're going to build a tournament around it. I think he sent me some instructions for it. I do want to open this one up. This is Ozone. I'm going to pull this out. I'm very curious how such a game could fit into a small box. This to me is brilliant, by the way. How packable this is. So it looks like, okay, so I've got these discs that come. It looks like these will be laid out on a table, something like that. And then I have 2 sets of 5 dice. This string, my assumption is this will be like a little bit of a measuring tool. How cool is that? Wow, if this is it, this is amazing, actually. And look at this it's just a full out of a half sheet of 8.5 by 11, it looks like. And it looks like there's no way he cut this himself. But I see, like, this to me does not look like a, I don't know, that's a little bit of a rough edge. Is that a paper cutter? Because that's hilarious. And awesome. Like, if he built this, the packaging and everything, if he stuck the stickers on, and I mean, that's incredible. This game is hand assembled in Lapeer, Michigan. How nuts is that? So toss the dice, hit the target. Now you know how to play. I believe it is that simple. That makes sense to me. Ozone turns any table into an exciting action game for 2 players or teams. And then it gives us the contents, contains small parts, etc. Okay, so toss dice toward the target. First team to 100 wins. So 5 dice of 1 color. Place the 3 Ozone targets at one end of the table in any arrangement you like. Place the foul discs between the middle of the table and the end opposite the targets, of course. So the arrows form an imaginary line across the play area. Here's an example. I want to know what this string is for. It's got to be for like measuring or something, right? Scoring the round. Yeah. The die closest to each Ozone target scores points for the team that tossed equal to the value of the die plus the value on the target. If it's hard to tell which die is closest to a target, measure from the mark in the center of the disc. Anyway, this is like surprisingly cool. I had no idea what to expect because I mean, I saw pictures of it. I didn't know if there would be a mat. I didn't know if there would be, yeah, no idea. These are the, okay, they're just double-sided. And then we've got the foul line discs. Anyway, that's awesome. Mike, thanks very much. Yeah, this is pretty special. This is the first delivery of its kind I've ever received, like a demo for one of our events. So this is great. This is a treat. I'm curious. I think it's similar. Special rules and a special target. So Axcadia, we'll get into later. But anyway, this is such a cool concept in that I'm sure it's a great game. I mean, like I said, I love dexterity type of things, and for something to be so small, so packable, I think that says something about the design and the design intuitions of Mike and his, what, you know, whoever put this together, as playtesters and stuff. So anyway, Mike, again, thanks very much. I'm excited to get these 2 games to the retreat tables. See what people like. We are going to build, I think I mentioned this, we're going to build a tournament around it, and it seems like just the game for that, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so I wanted to get back to this problem of balance, and I was, when I playtested with some other designers. I mentioned this before, but there's the issue of an economy that either is or feels unbalanced. And so I think what balance probably feels like is presenting possibilities to players which feel fair, which feel achievable for both players. That it seems like something like that. So, um, I hear a fair amount of people saying when they feel like something is unbalanced, that it's broken. Um, I guess the most common term, like that, or it's OP, right? Something is overpowered. And if a player has a perception that they're at a disadvantage, not because of something they've done, but because there's something going on in the game that gives another player an advantage that they felt like they didn't have access to, whether because of randomness or turn order or something like that. There's a perception that this game is not fair. I think that's mainly what it's about. There could be something else about. I'm trying to think of like a way to describe the feeling when something just is out of control. Like it probably still has to do with fairness, but it might be like, why is this? One kind of example perhaps is in some of these games I'm thinking of. I haven't played Dominion very much, but I'm thinking of some of these games where you have to do a lot of. There could be a lot of chaining, or there could be a lot of steps, or once you get this upgrade, now you have to do this, which unlocks this and does this other thing. It could be that um, I'm thinking of Merchant's Cove, for example, which is like, at least during the simultaneous play, it's like purely asymmetric. So I would think that balance, the umbrella of balance, underneath it includes like the time it takes to accomplish what you need to do, right? Or the like the length of a turn based on the number of steps a player needs to go through. So it could be that, like in Magic, or in something like Dominion, where you have players start to build decks, or to for whatever reason on their turn, or Merchant's Cove, something where you're managing a system. If your system takes 10 minutes to run, my system takes 2 minutes to run, I'm going to be sitting there for forever waiting for you to finish. I think that's potentially another form of imbalance. It would still be annoying. It's not economic imbalance, but it's just kind of like, well, are we playing the same game here? I would like this game to feel relatively consistent. It's not crazy this way, it's not crazy that way. It's just kind of like it offers a pretty consistent experience. I can also imagine that sensibility being included under that umbrella. But for the most part, I'm thinking about economic balance, so that when a player buys something, they feel like what they bought matters, or they feel tension with that decision. Okay, they're both the same price, or they're similar price, and I don't know which one. I don't know which one is better right now. That's the sort of problem I want to present to players. Right? It's the feeling that, wow, these are both really good, and it's not obvious to me which one is absolutely better. What I think a player needs to get in the mode of doing, and this is, I think, is the expectation with something like this game, this little engine builder, is that a player should become sensitive to the moment, right? Yeah, Mike, thanks for stopping by. Let's see. Yeah, I think so. When a player doesn't have, or doesn't feel they have agency over an outcome that creates a feeling of imbalance. I think that's right. There's even the runaway leader problem. Actually, I thought of this with I think it was Dice Forge. Like once you forge your first weapon or something like that, certainly second, but it can feel like there is this momentum, the snowballing, where it's obvious that this person is just taking off. I think sometimes the game allows that. Like in Magic, that's built into the system because it's a zero sum, like player elimination type of game. That's kind of the point. Welcome back, Francisco. Look back and see if they can look back and see the decisions they made were the cause of the outcome. Even imbalance can feel balanced. Yeah, and I think that's what I'm processing with Magic. For me, I'm not super interested in like infinite combos and like the competitive decks where they're really just looking for very specific win cons. They build their whole deck around getting specific cards that unlock specific, like, insane effects. Like, that's not that interesting to me. Like, kind of working with what you've got, reading the situation. That's been I think, the really engaging part of Magic for me. Not just buying the most expensive cards that do very specific things and interact with each other. And it's just like 4 cards out of 100 that actually do the thing. And then maybe, you have 15 cards that help you find the cards you need. To me, that's not super, super exciting. Also, it just could be that I don't want to spend the money on it or don't want to proxy cards right now to make that happen. But yes, Magic wants these things to happen. Magic builds this kind of has built this kind of system where that's the point. It certainly allows you, and I think it wants you to build this crazy thing that just gets out of control and just destroys everybody else. and we all put up with that because we know there are 100 cards in that deck, and every game's different. We all have our chance to do really cool, really crazy things, given that we draw the right cards, and I think it becomes acceptable in that case. It's not as fun if it's 2.5 hours of a slog of building up, getting knocked back, building up, getting knocked back. But at least the game has a natural timer. It probably doesn't come up that often, but at least it tends toward an end because you can only draw so many cards. Well, okay, so what I'm trying to do here is it's the effect of re-listening to the BGDL podcast where the episode where Emerson Matsuuchi describes some of the mathiness he puts into his games, and I absolutely do not have a lot of the reasoning background that he will have done because he was a software engineer, I think, before he really got into before he's probably full-time game design now, I don't know, but he's put out pretty like a diversity of games. But you think about something like Century Spice Road or Century Golem, it's clear that this is a mathy game. Like this, it's clear that was essentially a spreadsheet game, and that's cool. Like that's fine. It's so simple. I think the expectations are the expectations for players. I think are presented very clearly, concretely. You're just converting cubes, one type of cube to another type of cube, or you're using these. It's almost like playing a little mini engine over a few steps. Like it's a very cool hand management game, but you can see how such a game would exist on a spreadsheet. Like it makes sense that here's a variety of cards that all have different costs, but they all have different benefits. So Yeah, so the cards that have like the big point payouts obviously cost more to when they require more cubes, and you can imagine how there's just a variety of um, like the cost to payout ratio. There's just a big variety of those, and the game asks you to sort of to focus on one. Are you going to get a bunch of small cards? Or are you going to aim for one or two big ones and then a couple of small ones? It also has to do with what shows up in the market. But anyway, one of the things that he does, and he talked about in that episode. By the way, it was Chris Stone that reminded me that I should check this out. Uh, yeah, that's true. I get that, or I can see that the cards that Century is a spreadsheet game in that you just have a big variety of things that cost different things and are worth different things, and you could easily lay that out in numbers. It's a very transparent game, but there are obviously cards that are far better. I wonder if you would I'm certain there are cases where you could say you could look at these two cards. You could say, well, this one is one cube better than this one. They're worth the same. They're worth the same. You can't split up. You're not giving half points, and there probably is a tiny bit of cushion on built in between cards where you could say, yeah, these are worth the same number of points, but this one costs one more brown than this one. That kind of thing. So in that case, they would absolutely be one would be strictly better than the other. But I never thought about how much a cube is worth. I would guess that a brown cube is worth one, right? And then I forget what the order. I think no, not a brown cube. What's the brown cube is the most valuable? Is it yellow? Yellow is the starting color, I think. But anyway, what I'm trying to do here, and this is probably more complicated than I've ever, something that I've really dealt with before. But I'm trying to turn this game into a spreadsheet, partly just to see if I can do it and to see if I notice anything. Like in the process of doing this, if anything stands out to me, like based on the reasoning that I'm doing, if suddenly I can get a sense that this card or these values don't make any sense. Or, wow, this is actually, these things are closer or more aligned than I thought. That's the kind of thing I'll be looking for. But it's not like I know where I'm going. That's like, this is very, 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 very experimental for me. So I'll give you just a little summary of what I worked on yesterday after I was listening to the episode and was inspired to try a spreadsheet. So if we're looking at this Sugar Shack card, what the Sugar Shack does is it produces syrup cubes. And this is the first, right over here, this is the starting side of the card, which I've represented here in the spreadsheet in this grouping of values. So the starting Sugar Shack, for free, at the start of every turn, a player is going to be able to place a cube on the white space. So at no cost, guaranteed, a player is going to get one cube. So that's what I've entered here. So I have these columns: workers, money, and cubes. They are kind of three currencies. Workers are actions, and then money and cubes, these are things that you'll be able to essentially trade for other things or convert into other things. So the workers enable the conversion. That's what they're doing, their actions. But then these other two things are actual independent currencies that can be converted one into another. But the main thing is that the workers, the action is going to be doing something of the conversion. Like you need to take an action to convert, so you still need, and some of the actions cost varying numbers. The actions cost varying numbers of workers, and that might be where I'm in the weeds. But so anyway, they actually actions actions operate like a currency because you can actually spend things to get more actions. And those actions allow you to do more things. Not typically on the same turn, or at least it needs to be expensive to do it on the same turn. But that's what we're kind of looking at is that is that one feature of the economy that's working, that seems reasonable or not. So anyway, I have these 3 columns, and one thing I'm trying is I want to turn the actions available on a card. I don't want to just describe the individual action. I want to assign it a value that accounts for all of the elements that are a part of that action. And this is the thing, I have no idea if this is right. I have no concept if I can be doing this kind of thing. So as an example, this basic this white square, this you don't even have to take an action to do this. It just happens. You get 1 cube, and so I'm giving that a value of 1, right? And at the same time, I guess I should. I don't know if I should add the axioms here. I think I described them a little on my Facebook post yesterday. I think I'm going to do it. So what I have in the game are a couple of cards that define terms. So I'll add those here. One example is it's listed here, so but I'm just going to move it up to the top, and I can kind of take notes for myself. So one, in closer B market gives us a definition of the value of a cube. So it's an action plus a cube. So I'll put it that way. So action plus cube equals 3 money. So that is, at least as far as this economy is concerned, that's the definition, the monetary value of a cube. That's the definition of a cube. It is that it is worth 3 money. That's what closer B market gives us, and I can show you that. So that's what this card is doing right here. So it's a stable value. When I come to Farland market, it's an unstable value, but we can do an average. So what you need to do in the game is spend a worker. That's what this means. You have to commit a worker to this card, and then the cost is listed here. It's 1 cube, and then you get a payout of 3 money. So that's why this is the conversion rate. It's 1 cube to 3 money. Now this gets a little deeper in the weeds because there's a difference between what happens to this cube, and then if we look at what happens to the cube in Farland market, I'll do that right now. So in the case of Farland market, it costs 2 workers. I have it listed here as well. It costs 2 workers and 1 cube for at least 6 money, at most 8 money, but it's an average of 6.67 money. Okay, so just because these dice are weighted, right? So it's 1 through 4 gives 6, and 5 through 6 gives 8. So somewhere between no, that's part of the issue. That's what I'm describing here, Mike, is that Farland market costs 2 workers. And when you look at the payout, you can see, well, 1 worker and 1 cube. It's actually, Farland market is a better deal. And this is the thing that I'm trying to process. it's you can see on the face of it, Farland Market is a better deal, right? Because it's only 1.5 cube gives you 3 money. If you think about it that way, it's at least 3 money, right? So one worker and 1 cube, 2 workers and 1 cube give you 6 money. In other words, 1 worker and a half of cube give you at least 6 money, 6.67 on average. The trade-off is that it does take 2 workers. So you cannot, like, that's going to probably be your whole turn that is going to be your whole turn at the very beginning of the game. The reason for that is you only get 2 workers at the start of the game. So it could be that, there are other things you can do besides get money early on. This one definitely is about gaining money. This card, Closer View Market. But you can also spend money to gain workers. So for instance, if you wanted a more powerful turn next turn, you could spend a worker now to discard a cube and gain 3 money on turn 1. Turn 2, you could spend your second worker to spend that money to gain a worker for next turn. I don't know from a min-max perspective if that makes any sense. If you just want, an extra meeple next turn, if that's worth it. Another thing you might want to do on your turn is take the first player marker. That only costs 1 meeple as well. There's also the value right here. I'm describing with this very awkward set of symbols, this amalgamation of symbols, that placing a worker here gives you the first player marker and you scry 1 in magic terms. So you look at the top. If you like it, you leave it. If you don't like that card, then you place it on the bottom. Mayor's favor cards here are pretty powerful. Their expense is cubes. That's what these are down here. You spend 2 cubes under certain conditions, and then you gain a pretty amazing benefit usually. Anyway, so there are things you might want to do with a single worker that here's another example. So I place a worker and then I claim one of these bottles here at the start of the game, that is. This is all that's available. You don't have barrels at the start of the game. So I place 1 worker and I could claim one of these spaces. Claim a space. So there's a little race here for the warehouse. So if I claim this space, it's unavailable to my opponent. It's an investment that I probably would not want to make at the very beginning of the game because I have to wait until the end of the round for a payout of 6 money. So it doubles the value of a worker, but time is the cost in this case. I don't know how to evaluate the cost of time. But okay, so the point is that Farland Market has a better payout than Closerby Market. On its face, it's at least going to be like, how do I even do the math? So 2 for 1, and you get at least twice the money you would get for 1 cube. The problem, and what I think matters, and this is the intuitive part because I can't defend it mathematically, the sacrifice is, the trade-off is that you're taking your whole turn to get money rather than do other things you also might want to do. Anyway, there's also this thing, there's another, once barrels are introduced, then it sounds like in your head you're not trying to balance the material, but on your spreadsheet you are. Yeah. think if you want to balance in this way, you need a base valuation outside of your three materials, then balance the locations based on that versus balancing the materials against each other. So what would that? I think, you know what, if everything was worth one action, in other words, one worker, I think I'd pretty quickly have my head around what you're suggesting. Because everything is worth, because cards are worth up to 3 meeples, it's really hard for me to understand how to have an evaluation like, okay, so I could see it if, let's say, if every location you just send a worker there and activate the location, like a classic like a Lords of Waterdeep, right? So it's pretty clear that the game is telling you that one action okay, you're making the meeples the base value then, so that should be your 1. Yeah, how does that? It's weird because instead of the cube in your sugar shack. Well, let's see. So I think it could be that I do put order. I prioritize thinking in workers by having them on the left here. It's just that some things, I think they're almost like independent, a couple independent systems here, just because maybe I'm just thinking about this completely wrong, because it seems like, well, every card takes, okay, so every action takes workers. So that is, no, actually not every. Wait a second. So I think the confusing bit here is that now here's a different system. It's a totally different system. So maybe I shouldn't be thinking about the overlap of these economies yet. The other system is these mayor's favor cards. So yeah, go one at a time through your location. So, but just as an example here, really quick. So, in the case of resolving or earning some of these mayor's favor cards, some of them actually don't take actions to do, and this is kind of a big deal. They just take cubes. So, like here at the Market Monkey card, you don't have to pay, all you have to do is to return 2 cubes to the supply on your turn. This is your whole turn. Return 2 cubes to the supply and spend 10 money to gain 14 money in a worker. I know that looks a little weird. Why are you spending money to just make a little more money and a worker? The reason is that this is just a threshold. It's kind of annoying to save 10 money. You would rather be spending it on other things. You'd rather be spending it on upgrades, spending it on more actions next turn, or other things. So it's more like get a minimum. You need at least a minimum of 10 to gain this card. And you're spending it too. You don't have to use this card right away. You can use it at an important moment. But anyway, okay. So I will go back through the locations. So the mayor's favorite cards are not locations, but they operate differently. This one's weird because this is all about upgrades, and this is way beyond. Oh, I like that. Okay. Yeah, because you do have to, you will have had to take actions to meet conditions. So I like that. I like that a lot. And, hmm. Yeah, so this card still works like a definition, right? At least in my mind, it makes sense that, um, well, because the cost, there are two costs here. This is what confuses me. There are two costs. It costs an action and a cube, right? So I think that's what's tripping me up. It's the sense that really what's going on here, it's not just one action, but it's one action plus. That's the thing that's hard for me to think about. This one is also not one action. It's an action plus money, right? This one is just an action. So this just costs one. But I think finding a way to, yeah, like that's what I'm trying to do here. Wait. So in syrup ink. I wonder if I can make sense of this. So why did I put these? So Farland Market has two things. Maybe I wanted to, yeah, I didn't put any space. So let's see. Oh, this was a tricky thing. So for those, you would bring it back to your base. How many dedicated actions? That's I still, yeah, I really like that idea. I'll come back. I think the mayor's favorite cards are gonna keep things tricky for me for a while, so I'm just gonna work on these locations for a little bit and see if I can make them make sense to myself somehow. So here's a tricky thing. So so looking at these costs, I'll start at the top. It costs one worker and 4 money to gain a cube right now. The reason I might want to do that is that maybe I'm working toward a mayor's favor card, and I see my opponent, they don't have. Uh, uh, okay, so let's say an action is worth 2 points, cube worth 1 point, syrup worth 3 points. So just to clarify, we have workers, money, and cubes. So cubes are syrup. So it looks like maybe okay. So here, let me see if I can add that conversion up here. So let's say okay. So a worker is 2 points. Let's try that. A worker is 2 points, and then here's one thing I know for sure. I could say so far. I think I just realized that money is worth a third, and a cube is worth 1. Right? I can say that because I can turn 3 money into. No. I'm sorry. Wait, no, that's right. Because here it costs me 1 cube. Wait, I guess I'm going the wrong direction. So is this right? That a cube gets me 3 money. No, that's wrong. Yeah, if I reorder them. See, I'm telling you, this is definitely not my strength. It's really difficult for me to reason through this kind of stuff. Let me add one more. So here's a worker, 1 cube, and money. Money 1. So maybe 1.5 and 0.5. An action is, let me see. I think you're I do think that actions are the most fundamental of things. That makes sense to me. Whoa. X plus y equals 3. So so to do this, yes. Interesting. Wow. Wait. So I like this, thinking in terms of everything being related to money as an example. If money is the main unit, then it is. So it could be anything. It depends on how I want to weight this, right? I might be doing something slightly different from what you're describing, Mike, but it makes sense that something equals 3, right? So an action equals 1 money or 2 money. Yes, that's the thing that I was missing, because if I need to get to the sum of these two equals 3, right? That's what I think that's what you're pointing out. The sum of a worker and a cube equals 3. I like that a lot. So it's not 2 workers. It's that it depends on how we weight. Right. Okay. I'm following that. So I'm saying that a worker is more important than a cube, right? So it could even be like, I'm not saying this is right, but it could be 2.5 and 0.5 if I'm saying that a cube is not super powerful. They are, but maybe not when it comes to converting to money. Interesting. Yeah, right. So if I say that interesting. Okay, now let me see if I can apply this thinking anywhere else. Because it's not obvious to me that I'll be able to, but let me see. So that's the definition we get from closer B market, or that's what's happening in closer B market. Now, if we assume that if we assume that a worker is always worth 2 money and a cube is always worth 1, is that the best way to describe it? Or I think so, right? I think so. So let me try. Okay, so here's another problem. I'm gonna forget this guy right here. I'm gonna forget this bottom one, because time also feels really weird to me as something to care about as a player, right? If we're literally talking conversion rates, that's it. So now, how do we solve for a cube now, right? A cube now should be, if there was no sense of time, then it seems like just the simple reverse would be that a worker and 3 money. No. Wait. How do I do this? It should be more than a cube, right? Because is this the simplest algebra in the world? Yeah, that I don't. I have no idea. How much money is time worth? I don't know. I have yeah, that changes too because um yeah, it is a resource. I'll give you an example why it's a resource too. And it changes. It's because there's a round based timer. So there's a round based timer. So if for example it takes 6 turns, let's say on turn one I claim this spot. And then at the end of turn six it pays out. Then I feel like I'm gaining 1 money per turn, right? Or something like that. 1 money per turn. But if I and the thing is, this pays out at the end of the round. Um, yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right, Francisco. But there is a real value to it here. But that's what I'm trying to say. I think it gets confusing because, or not confusing, just complicated. Because if if I drop a cube in here on turn six, it is an investment, but it's not an investment that grows over time. It's an investment that denies the other player the payout. That's what the investment really is, I think. It just blocks the other player from getting access to that payout. So if I block it turn one, it's worth 1 money per turn, I think. If I block it turn six, it's worth, in that case, because it'll pay out in turn seven, it is worth 6 money per turn. So that means, there's the other player's not defending, but that's the hard part about the timing, figuring out what is the value of time. So I think the way I thought about it so far is, in this case, I gave, here, let me just say what the value. Um, I don't know. Are you the worker lost forever? Workers workers replenish every turn. I don't know if that answers your question. In the case of claiming one of these spaces with a syrup cube, that cube gets discarded at the end of the. It gets sent to the grant office. I haven't described what the grant office does yet, but it gets sent to the grant office. So there's actually a lot of value to this spot. So if you place it there, are you hurting your ability to play for 6 turns? You might. No, definitely not. I mean, this payout is double of what you would typically get paid out, right? It's double. So it's a good investment. The problem is deciding whether your opponent is going to go for it first, or deciding when in the round it's going to be worth to compete for. Because, like I said, you're sacrificing something for some number of turns. So, yes, that cube could be better used. If I'm thinking moment by moment, it could be better used now to do something like, work on the gift shop, for example. Because I get paid out 2 by placing on the gift shop right now, but I get paid 6 for placing in the warehouse, but at the end of round 1. Who knows when the end of round 1 is going to come? It could come in 4 turns. It could come in 7 turns. Like, we just don't know. So it's an unknown. You block the other player, which is key, and then you'll be set up to make some big moves in a later round. Yeah, it's not taking from them because you aren't guaranteed that 6. Okay. So it's not. That's like an opportunity cost thing, though, right? Because somebody is gonna get this. Right, okay. So yeah, right. There's like this money is somebody is going to claim this money. That's my expectation because it's $6 good, right? You're not going to say no to six money, and it's the cheapest conversion, right? It's like one of the best conversions out there because it really is one action, one meeple for six money. So it's amazing. So they're going to go for it. There's not even a game of chicken. It's like, do I want to go for this thing that pays out later and place a cube and lose that cube, or go for the thing that pays out now? It's less lucrative, but it might help me unlock an upgrade. So I like that problem, but mathematically I don't really know how to evaluate it. That's the thing. So so how to give time. I'm just assuming a round is going to be 6 turns right now. And it probably is something similar. So I could say, yeah, what do you mean? Do you mean this right here? Yeah, this is a difficult, I think. Yeah, yeah, we're talking about time. I want to maybe ignore time for a second because I think it gets it does that gets really really tough. It's a high value location. It's up to the players to decide when it's time to go for the high value location. That's right. So I guess in that sense it's unbalanced on purpose, right? Because then it's up to the players to right. Right. Yeah, I guess we're not using we don't have to use we don't have to balance the location mathematically because we get to say, "Hey, check it out. This location is unbalanced," right? That's like kind of we're waving the flag, like planting it here and saying this is unbalanced, but you have to decide when to go for it, right? So that's actually cool. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's absolutely what it is. Like, are you willing? Do you want to sacrifice a cube now for a payout later? That's great, a great payout. But the payout shouldn't be so much, right? Yeah, that's actually cool. I'm glad to think of it that way. It is unbalanced on purpose. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So just to yeah, just to represent that though. Yeah, I haven't even gotten to that card yet in just like my attempt at representing it. Partly because barrels, I haven't gotten into barrels yet. But I really like that. I'm just going to take a note of the warehouse. It's unbalanced on purpose. And it is offering an opportunity cost problem. Right? It's a cube now for something small that'll help you potentially now or very soon versus a cube now for a big thing later. I think that's a really cool problem. But what I wish I had a better intuition about was whether it should be a payout of 8 or 12 for one bottle. I don't feel like it should be, but I guess that's just like maybe there's a way to rough it in, like is about one money a turn reasonable? Does that seem like a reasonable opportunity cost? So if I pay at the start, yeah, that makes sense to me, a playtesting problem. I mean, if I'm thinking as a player, is one money per turn a reasonable cost if it adds up over time to be 6 money? Like on turn 1, am I going to claim this spot? Yeah, okay, I like that. So in other words, if the game is telling them this is ridiculously valuable, you need to come here, then oh, this could be a cool way to think about it. So if, let's just, again, assuming a round is worth, okay, yes, let me pitch this idea, or the way to process this. So if I see this and I say, okay, assuming that the round is 6 turns, if I place now, that's 1 money per turn. I don't have access to it, but it's my value. Like, that is going to show up later. If I place on turn 2, maybe turn 2, then is this right? Then it counts as over 5. No. I should. Let me go to turn 3. If I place on turn 3, then I'm gaining 2 money per turn. So the value per turn is getting better. Wait. Yeah. And so the longer I wait, the better, in a way, the better that conversion rate works out for me. It's almost like I would like a player to say, if I don't place by turn 3, where there's like already a good payout per turn, if I want them to recognize that they should at least take a spot by turn 3, right? And if they both kind of know that, and then they can sort of, it's not chicken necessarily, but then they can kind of jockey and feel out whether or not the player's going to take that spot or not. The opponent's going to take that spot. So this is cool. So this is a good payout, but because it's over time, they can kind of calculate when they think, like when they want to start start the timer, when they're only getting 1 money per turn or 2 money per turn, or if it's turn 4, and then later 5 that's 3 money per turn if they drop it on turn 5. Anyway, I feel like I just talked a lot, I kind of rambled in that moment processing it, but the point is I really like that we're offering a high value thing that has opportunity cost. Yeah, that's cool. But back to SERP Inc. And then I think, let's see, I don't think I have a sub job today, but let me see if any have showed up. Because that's about an hour, that's like an hour and 15 for me. Yeah, no jobs yet. Which is kind of a bummer. I have a lot to do anyway, but no jobs yet. Okay, so let me think about gaining a cube right now. So how to think about this? Okay, so it still costs a worker. And I want the outcome to be a cube. So I'm actually gonna, I don't think this probably isn't necessary, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Should I do this? -2 to represent, oh, come on. To represent cost. Because it's minus one worker, minus a worker, which equals 2, and -1 cube, which equals 1. Gains 3 money. Okay. Now here I could do this again. -2. Well, the way it's represented right now is so wait, so the cube is actually 1 right now. So I'm kind of solving for Yikes, Mike. You're taking me to places I don't know if I can go. Let's see, for this one, I think you'll want to value it based on the max profitability of the cube versus the base. Okay. So max profitability. Well, here's what I could do. So I'd be losing money to do this, right? But one way to spend a cube, so I could come here, spend 4 money, then go there, spend a cube, and gain 3 money. So I'd be losing money in that case. And what I'm leaving out, I think this will be rare, to be honest. I think this will be rare. The reason it'll be rare is that if I plan ahead, this is why the Sugar Shack matters, and why like some of these, there's like a cost involved in the Sugar Shack. If I plan ahead for next turn, I can spend 3 money this turn to add an extra cube, right? So that's if I'm planning ahead. However, if I recognize that I need a cube now, the reason I might need a cube is that maybe a new mayor's favor card pops up, right? Maybe one of these gets resolved and then another one comes out and it costs 2 cubes. And maybe it's something I'm qualified for. I meet the condition and I just need 1 more cube. Okay? So that's again another, it's another cost for urgency. It's kind of a tax. It's a little tax I placed on this emergency cube. Because you wouldn't do it unless you really, really need to. You feel it's urgent to race for something. Yeah, so it's kind of a. I just kind of guessed at increasing the cost by 1. What is the best that can happen? Well, it's tough because it depends on how many meeples you have, right? So if let's say I have 3 meeples because I've upgraded my staff card. So at the start of the round, at the beginning of the game anyway, at the start of every round, I'm sorry, at the start of every turn. Wow, I just realized I have a language problem because the rounds, I have 2 types of rounds. I have rounds that are based on recovering your meeples and then resetting, running your Sugar Shack, and then playing again. And then I have a round that ends when the sugar bush empties. So I got to sort that language out. It might be like week. It might be like week 1, week 2, week 3. Actually, that's probably better. But it's thematic, but I kind of don't like it. Anyway. So if I start the game with 2 meeples at the start of every round, once I upgrade this, I get 3 meeples at the start of every round. So the best payout per cube I mean, it's really good at Farland Market, right? Because it's better than 6 per cube. It's better than 6 money per cube. On average, it just costs 2 workers. Ooh, actually, let me try Farland Market. Maybe this will offer some insight. Probably not, but maybe. Well, the reason you would need a cube now is the main reason is that here. I'm going to open up TTS actually. Yeah, I can make that. I can make that clear. It has to do with. I think the best example has to do with Mayor's favorite cards. Okay, so during the game, you'll have access to most of the town locations, right? So here's the player's Sugar Shack, little Sugar Shack area with these 3 cards, and then here's town. But then these, so this town is stable, but then these Mayor's favorite cards pop out and cover certain locations. Okay. So what this card says is at the expense of 4 cubes, when you activate, next time you activate the hardware store for an upgrade, you get that upgrade for free. Okay. So let's say this is resolved. The blue player gets this one. Cool. So this is for the blue player. Then right after that one is resolved, this one comes out and it covers this market. And this one only costs 2 cubes. But if you see this come out and it's your turn and you only have 1 cube, well, they would have probably run out of cubes, right? Because they just spent their 4. But I'm going to spend a turn to gain an extra cube, right? So that I can gain this card, because this is a pretty nice payout for 2 cubes, I think. So that's one reason why you might want one now. Another reason is just some poor planning. Maybe you realize, maybe you discover in the middle of your turn or in the middle of the round that if you had 1 more cube, you might be able to cover this thing that you can afford the grant that you didn't realize you could afford. So at the same time, you need it to place a cube, so you can just spend a meeple to go get a cube real quick, even though it's not as cost efficient. So that's why. These are meant to be pretty powerful, these Mayor's favorite cards. And they're not just powerful because of the benefit, but also because they're a new win con. The way I'm thinking of it is like what this card says up in the top right is if you earn 4 Mayor's favorite cards, then you win the game. So there could be really good reasons to rush getting a cube. This is also kind of odd notation for the second one down. The idea of, where was that? That it's 4 money to get 2 workers now. This one was a little weird for me to think about too, because let me just move this up, because you have to spend a worker to get there, and I want this this payout to be for you to get an extra worker to work with right now. And so of course it didn't make any sense to spend one to gain one. So instead you're spending one to gain 2. Hopefully that was an obvious thing to do. Anyway, I want to come back. I just want to see how Farland Market works out. So, and I'm ignoring the barrel cost right now. So what I have is 2 workers. So I'm going to say -4, right? 1 cube minus 1 equals, it's like 6.6 money, 6.67 money. And in this case, should I sum these? Like, so that the whole interaction has a value? That's one thing I was wondering. That's what I did over here. So I can do that. So that'd be sad if this, yeah, I feel like I'm overreaching here. Like, this probably doesn't make any sense to do this. But then what happens if I sum this one? Oh, you know what? Actually, if this is a definition, then what I'm saying is all of these are equal, or this conversion rate is equal. So here's the cost, here's the payout, and what if that is the definition of this, of money, which is to say the value of 1 worker and the value of 1 cube equals 3 money, then the sum should be 0, right? The sum should be 0. What this is saying is for the value of 2 workers and 1 cube, you get better value, right? Whereas I think what's good right now, what this 45 minutes or an hour together is doing, is shaking me loose of the idea that everything should be mathematically, quotes, balanced, but instead these different locations should offer different kinds of deals, right? I can say, hey, here's a good deal on money, but it's at the expense of actions, right? So this is a very action expensive move. It costs 2 workers, but you get a better deal on money here, right? That's what's happening. And the reverse is happening for Syrup Inc. It's saying, here's a worse deal for a cube than normal. It's worse. It should be better value because there's a value cost. Yes. I think that's what I'm seeing. So it's not that we definitely don't want Farland Market to pay out exactly the same as Closterby Market, because then why wouldn't you just go to Closterby Market? It needs to pay out better, but the cost, there needs to be a clear sense of, I'm also losing this for this better value. So I think that's why it should be 2 workers rather than Yeah, that's why it's nice that it's two workers. Because two workers are powerful. So yes, I like this a lot. I like this a lot. The same is true, um, even if players can think in terms of time, the same thing is happening here. Um, the longer they wait, the better, effectively, the better the payout. But then there's the risk of losing it because there's another player that's also interested in that same money. So the deal, there's a great deal over here, but it's just going to lock up one of your cubes. You know, it's without getting the payout for a while. Yeah, so I like that. And what I think, I don't know if I finished my thought here. What's cool about what Syrup Inc. is doing is it's saying here's a worse deal, but there might be a moment when it's worth it. Right? There might be a moment when urgency says you need a cube, and I've got a cube for you, but it's going to cost you. So I think that's good. Like I don't want a pure. Actually, this is really cool. Like that this kind of clicked in my mind right now that these should be zero, right? If this is the baseline, if this is the baseline evaluation, then everything else should be in reference to that. Some deals are better, some deals are worse, but there always has to be an obvious trade-off, right? That's cool. So then I might actually be close to playtesting being the answer, right? Because I feel like I don't feel like there's anything crazy like outlandish in these payouts. What I think playtesting would show is if something needs to be more valuable, right? Like if players are not using a location or it doesn't appear to be useful, then that could be the time. So I'm kind of hitting a ballpark here, right? Where this is kind of what I worked out with community projects. I felt like when I self-play tested, the community projects were not in reach to be paying those out. It would be nice if I had a mathematical explanation or rationale for setting these prices, like what is the expected value per turn, right? Like how much money should a player expect to earn per turn? I don't know that I can really do that, partly because I feel like the systems, there are at least two systems that overlap and are fairly dynamic. And so it's a little hard for me to get my mind around the value of a turn. Right, with the mayor's favor cards and the typical locations, I feel like it's hard for me to say this is how much a player could expect to earn per turn. But maybe that is a figure I could come to. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of the main insights from today. I think one is it like how I should go forward and move forward and thinking about what a baseline is. So it was a cool insight to realize that these are weights. So I'm telling the player a worker is worth twice the value of a cube. It doesn't have to be that way. I could evaluate it differently. I could make them worth the same. Right? A worker could be worth 1.5, a cube could be worth 1.5, and money equal 3. And anyway, ending with 0 here is like an important thing for the system. And from there, that's when I can start messing with different types of deals. Right? If this is the baseline, then this is a good deal at the cost of an extra worker.